Okay, the regular meeting of the East Grand Forks Economic Development Authority for September 17th, 2019 is called to order. Call roll, please. Oh, we have to get our recording device isn't going yet. I gotta say that again. Okay, the regular meeting of the East Grand Forks Economic Development Authority for Tuesday, September 17th, 2019 is called to order. Please call roll.
Johnson.
Here.
Black.
Here.
Blair. Pokrzywinski.
Here.
Grinde.
Yes.
Hecht.
Here.
Helms.
Here.
Okay.
That is a quorum. Item number one, or item number two, approval of minutes. Need a motion.
I'll move. I'll second.
Moved by Hecht, second by Black. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Item number three, bills and communications. Review of accounts payable September 3rd, 2019. And B, approval of accounts payable September 17th, 2019. Any questions? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve item B.
Move.
Moved by Grinde,
Second.
second by Hecht. Further discussion, we have roll call on this one? No? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, just approved. Item number four, reports, delinquency update.
There are no delinquencies?
No delinquencies, again. It's always good news. And B, financial reports. Carla Anderson.
Thank you. Excuse me. The normal activity was in every account. I did send updates on the monthly reports for the IRP, the MIF, the EDA, and the housing, and Sunshine Terrace and down payment assistance. So, but in the packet, you have a cash balance report. The 280 fund is still in the hole by $19,000. The only activity usually going into that would be, there's a couple more payments coming from Valley Golf, and if somebody is no longer living in East Grand Forks with that 10-year incentive. That's basically the money coming into that account.
That's lot sales also, right?
And the lot
We
sales,
sell
yes.
lots.
And most of the lot sale actually goes to the specials, but there is a little bit that comes in there.
Okay.
It's about $5,000. Give and take the lot. Thank you. The only other account that's in the hole is the 620, which is EDA General Fund, and that does run in the hole for the whole year, and then there's a transfer done at the end of the year. So all the other accounts are looking good with money in them, and any questions? And just so you know, the preliminary tax levy will be voted on tonight, and it's estimated right now at 5%. And that in November, when we get the truth and taxation numbers, we will review it and see how that affects everybody's individual property taxes, or as a whole. So,
What percentage of a fund balance would that leave?
right now, we have 51% of fund balance for revenue and about 50% for expenses. And that we're actually, the budget would planning on taking out of the fund balance as it is now, which would keep us at about 50.5%. And the state wants 35 to 50%. So we would still be within that. Actually, we'll be back in the range instead of out of the range.
Okay. All right.
So.
Hearing no further questions. Pardon me? 5B. Sure, we're going to skip to item number 5, B on the agenda, the Torkelson request to appeal the 80-20 decision, the August 20th decision. Mr. Torkelson is here, and we are happy to hear what you have to say, and we'll move forward from there.
Me to do a quick summary?
Sure. I'm going to have Mr. Gordy kind of give us a review of a summary of what's going on and where we are today.
As I pointed out last time, Mr. Torkelson built the lot over several years. He got control of the lot in something like 2012 or 2013. He started construction a couple of years later. He completed the house at the end of 2019. He applied for his certificate of occupancy then. He was not able to get a certificate of occupancy until February of 2019 because there were some items that had to be completed before he could get that. The program that he had asked for, the $5,000, was the incentive program that the city was running, and they required lots to have been purchased before December 31st of 2017, and they required the certificate of occupancy to have been issued no later than December 31st of 2019. In accordance with that, when he made the request last time, the EDA said no to the request, and he is asking for the opportunity to talk with you to ask you to reconsider your decision.
Yes, and at our last meeting, we did deny that request, and we also did say if you would like to address this board at the next meeting, we'd be happy to hear you out. So here we are. You have the Ms. Anderson.
You might want to correct that it had to be, occupancy was December of 2018.
Yep.
I'm sorry, 2018. Did I say
Yep.
19?
Yep.
Yes. My mistake.
For the record, it was completed in the end of 2018. Correct. Okay. Mr. Torkelson.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come and speak today. I typically am up walking around, but I told Paul that I would be trying to succinct, so I'm going to I apologize for reading to you with, and I can stay on point and move through this. It's relatively short. So I purchased my lot, and I worked with Jim Ritker, who worked for the Economic Development Committee. At the time that I purchased the lot, I lived in Grand Forks with my wife. We just sold our home, and we were looking to build a new home. Growing up in Grand Forks, we looked at lots on both sides of the river, and because of my job in East Grand Forks that I I decided that it made sense and it's the right thing to do to move to East Grand Forks and become part of the community that I serve. So during the time that I shopped for the lot, there were no lot selling in Grand Forks, no lot selling in East Grand Forks. The economy was flat, nothing was happening, and I spent a lot of time walking back and forth between, or moving back and forth between the river, and I spent a lot of time actually visiting with Mr. Ritker, because moving to Minnesota was sort of different for me, growing up and living in North Dakota. Like I said, I spent a lot of time talking to Mr. Ritker, and then we eventually developed a purchase agreement between myself and the city, and Mr. Ritker told me that if I purchased a lot, then we would be part of the new incentive program, and at that time it was just when you finish the home, then the incentive program, you just would get your certificate and turn it in, and there were really no dates or timelines or anything like that on it. It was just part of what I was doing. So my wife and I decided to buy the lot, build a home in East Grand Forks, and we actually had the home finished in December 2018, where we hosted our family for the holidays. Last winter, if you remember, it was really a tough winter. I called the inspection department numerous times, and actually it had nothing to do with the ending of the incentive thing, because I had no idea that that was the case. I was trying to get the house closed before year end, so that was my goal in trying to get that closed. So it took weeks, actually, to get a hold of the inspectors and set up a time. Smith and Knowlting. And during that time, I talked to them a number of times, and they were super busy, and I thought that I was just working with them, and there was no other reason to push them farther except for the bank, who was trying to get the place closed before the first. We wanted to get that off the books. So anyway, we definitely tried to get it done, and it just, because of the nature of the time of the year and everything, the guys are not able to get over to it. I have no complaints with the inspection that they did. They were great to work with. They were just super busy, that's all. So I applied for the incentive money this spring after completing the paperwork, because that's the agreement that I had with the city of East Grand Forks and with Mr. Ricker, and I realized that he doesn't work here any longer. During the many talks that I had with Mr. Ricker, the whole deal about the incentive program was kind of a negotiating perk that he threw out to say, look, if we do this, we can get you into this program. This is a great deal for you. And so I guess I just never thought anything more about it than just once we bought the lot, it was a go until we had the house completed. Again, I was never notified by any changes in that agreement with Mr. Ricker and the city through any committee or through the Economic Development Committee. Obviously, if I would have known about the deadline at the end of the year in December, I mean, it was just a couple weeks, I could have pushed the inspectors to get there sooner. But again, I don't think that the Economic Development Office, I don't hold them responsible, because they had no reason to call me or to tell me. I don't even know that they knew that I was out there still in that particular program. I guess, if you wanted to verify my story, you could certainly talk to the lady over at Smith and Knowlting, because I got to be sort of a pain in her side, as she was, and the bank did, because we were trying to get this thing locked up before the first of the year. And I know that if Mr. Ricker was asked questions about the terms and the agreement that we made about the purchase of the lot, that he would tell you the same thing, that was part of the deal that we made. And again, I had no idea of any changes. So in discussing this, I'm only talking about the lot that I purchased from the city. I don't know how it works for the other people who did it later. To me, it seems like it would be fair to correct and just complete the agreement that I feel like I followed. I built the house. We tried to invest in the community, build a nice home. Like I said, I don't think that this was intentional by any party. I just think it was one of those things that happened when the timelines ran out on something, and I didn't know about it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Torkelson. The procedure that we have to follow here, we've already acted on this and we denied it. In order for us to reconsider, I think we'd have to, maybe Ron can tell us how we would reopen. Someone who voted yes would have to, or vote, I'm not sure how we would move forward.
Actually, I think it was a unanimous vote.
Okay.
However, if, under the circumstances, you could, if anybody wanted to make a motion for reconsideration and have a second, then you could have further discussion and another vote on it if you would like.
So that's, in order for us to discuss it, we should make a motion?
In order to discuss it and then have a vote on it, you should make a motion for discussion regarding a motion to reconsider.
Or we could have no discussion, no one makes a motion, and it just dies. Those are our options.
That's basically it, yes.
Yeah,
I'll make the motion for discussion,
to reconsider.
to reconsider.
Okay. Motion by Hecht.
Second.
Second by Johnson. Further discussion. The floor is open.
Need a vote on that?
too.
We need,
Yep, then you would vote on the motion to reconsider.
okay, so we vote on this now and
You
then?
have to open it, so right now you've
Okay.
got two.
Okay, I see.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to reconsider, we need to call roll on whether we support this.
Okay. Johnson?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Pokrzywinski?
Yes.
Grinde?
No.
Hecht?
Yes.
Helms?
Yes.
Okay, now, this doesn't mean that we've granted him.
No, you
No.
just opened up the
Just
motion
opened
for
it.
reconsideration.
Okay.
You can have discussion on the motion and then
Okay.
make it.
And that's why I voted yes on this. I think it's a fair thing to ask us to have a discussion about this, and
Consider before it
now-
proceeds. Okay.
we're just figuring out the right, proper rules of, Robert's Rules of Order. Now, do we just open it up for discussion now, Mr. Gulstead? Okay.
Yes.
I get, one reason why I made the motion is what I would like to know is that, was there anything that we could have done or had any type of procedure or something to notify anybody that was hanging out in limbo like that? That, you know, I look at that we initially put this in place because of where we were at with lot sales and everything at that time and where that fund balance was, is that we just couldn't support it going forward anymore. So we had put it in place to, from that day going forward, anybody that purchased a lot was eligible if they purchased a lot by a date and finished the home by a certain date. That didn't take into consideration past lot sales that I think were kind of almost counted within the program. So my question is that would have we had any way to find out who purchased lots further back and notify them that, hey, where are you at with your house? And if you want to be part of this program, it needs to be finished and certificate of occupancy by the 31st of 18?
Well, first, there was a lot of discussion both here in the city council through work session. Second, the normal purchase agreements require the home to be completed within a certain time frame. And that, the time frame through December 31st of 2018 accommodated that time to construct your home. And this home took considerably longer to construct than many other homes. Are there any others? I can't tell you whether there are any others. I don't know that answer. But it's unusual when a home has been under construction that long.
But there was previous ones that missed out too, that we voted no against before.
We've had people who have not met the criteria for either the date of closing or for the date of that the certificate of occupancy occurred.
Correct.
Who have not obtained the incentive program, not been eligible for the incentive program.
And that's why I voted no, is because then if we make an exception here, we need to go back and make an exception to the rest. In my opinion.
Mr. Black?
I'm just curious, so was there any public notice made that we were ending the program?
It was on the internet, I don't know, page 2.
It was, in terms of public notice, our agendas are public notice of what's going on. City council agendas are public notice of what's going on. So it was publicized. It was not given to every individual property owner.
That's fine, I just
but it
wanted to
was
make sure
done
that.
way.
I do
So we
believe there
did follow that.
was some press coverage too. I'd have
Yes,
to look
there
back,
was.
but
Okay, and then my other question would be is, so as he's referring to Mr. Torkelson is referring to an agreement that was made, was that agreement in writing? Did we have that in writing or anywhere?
I have not found anything on that. If Mr. Torkelson has something like that, I think it would be helpful to bring that forward to the board.
And I think it was, I had a purchase agreement on the lot and the paperwork for the incentive program. I mean, I'm not saying that I had an agreement that had that as a separate piece. That was just always part of the whole thing as we talked about the purchase of the lot.
That was the reason why I voted yes to reopen this, is because if there was a written agreement that was there, then that's something that we need to consider as a board if we have these agreements out there that we're not made aware of. So if there is an agreement out there that we have, then that could change things. But if there isn't a written agreement, then those are the questions that I had, so.
I have seen no documentation no written documentation of that. If there is something, I would like to see that, but I've not seen any documentation, written documentation regarding that. In addition, it's, since I've been here, and I can't speak to what was done before, it's become standard practice to provide the persons who are making the purchase a copy of the agreement, and the incentive programs are part and parcel of everything that goes on, but they're available to anybody, and not just people who buy lots from the city. It's people who have bought lots from the other developers in town as well, so that there's nothing specific that goes out to anybody that ties it to the sale of a lot that I've been aware of.
I would agree with that.
Mr. Helms?
Thank you. I'm not disputing your story whatsoever because I believe you. I think this is one of those things that happened years ago, that a lot of these kind of promises were made. But at the same time, you purchased this lot in 2012, and 6-7 years later you have the house built. Maybe he wasn't expecting that to go that long. And maybe you should have come in front of the board or something earlier and said, hey, is this incentive still out there, or this is what we're going through? I can't get my house inspected so we can close on it. Maybe, just maybe we could have done something then. But I have to agree with Mr. Grinde. I think if we change one, we're going to have to change them all. So that's why I voted to open the discussion, because I wanted to bring that out. That's the way I feel. I guess when people are building a house, most of the time I understand you did most of it yourself, so it takes a little longer. I understand that.
I did, and before we started, I had a stroke, so.
Yeah. So that's the thing that kind of bothers me, like 7 years later, they're coming up and, wanting this $5,000 incentive.
And
So.
if I may speak, really
Absolutely.
what we're talking about is about 2 or 3 weeks between when the closing of this was and the actual inspection. So I understand totally what you're saying about the longevity and the time between we purchase the lot and the end of it. But really, when it boils down to it, it's a month. That's the difference. It's not years. It's not. And I'm burning my case right now because I feel like I'm arguing. I'm not. I'm just trying to express
No.
my point that really we're talking about days, and anybody could call over to Woods to Smith and Olting and ask them if I was ringing their phone off the hook last year, because I wanted in the worst way to get this done before the first of the year. That was my whole deal. And so to set up a program and put the ending date and then have no way to do it because the inspectors that you've subcontracted to didn't do it, I don't know.
And that's why I wanted to open this up for discussion as well, is I know that, like Josh had mentioned, that there's other ones that we might have to go back and look at too, but how far were those ones out for getting their certificate, where I do believe you in that this can be an issue of scheduling. And if it's an issue of scheduling through no fault of his own, where does that put us with, if he contacted them in December to get the certificate of occupancy and they weren't able to get there to finish it due to backed up schedules or weather, however it may be, I think that's something that has to be taken into consideration a little bit.
Well, I guess my question to that would be, how did he get to move in without a certificate of occupancy to begin with inspections?
Well, that happens.
But I mean, that's a big risk.
But it happens, because a lot of people do a lot of their own finishing work. So they're already in the house. And then they do the certificate of occupancy when they do the closing on the house. So, where you switch from a construction loan to a mortgage loan. I mean, there's a lot of people that live in their home when they're doing new construction. I'm not defending or anything. I'm just saying that happens. Because a lot of people will want to finish their basement and they'll want to do it themselves to get it on the mortgage. So they have it as part of their construction loan.
But that'd be different than an inspection, though. That'd be between the bank and the appraiser and everything, to
Right,
say
but-
that yes or no.
Right, but usually at the closing of the mortgage, they request the certificate of occupancy.
Because
So-
I know as an electrician, I can't just go in there and put up the one smoke detector down in the basement and get my inspection for him. I
Right.
need to have this. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is that if he wanted to get all the work done in the basement, put on his mortgage, he wants to get all that work done, and he's not gonna call in and request a certificate of occupancy until the work is done. So that all of that is inspected. It's just a semantic thing. It could be, it can't be, some do it a certain way, some don't. I can't tell you why the inspectors were busy. Christmas is a busy time for us. If he wasn't in a hurry because he didn't know he needed to be in a hurry, you know, we don't know. Or if he was doing some finishing touches, I can't guarantee you. I do know that our inspection process typically does not, I mean, it doesn't take them weeks to respond. So I can't attest to, but he had been working with them up to that point, so he was not contacting our office. He was working directly through them. So that scenario also could be very different, so.
Mr. Helms?
Maybe what we should do is ask Mr. Torkelson to get hold of Whitsett Smith Knowlton, bring them to our meeting, and we move it on for further discussion and see what they say. If they say they just got a call like, you know, Christmas time in 18, then that's not enough time for them to make it there. But if they got it in, you know, June or July, and they didn't get there until after the first year, that's maybe a whole nother story. You follow what I'm saying? So maybe we should find out from them if they have any kind of record or anything about when you were contacting them.
Yeah, and I guess I can.
I don't know if they do
I
or
can
don't,
probably
but-
answer that question right now. We were calling in December and it just kept going. So using that criteria, you know, I'd be more than happy to come and have them say that we were calling them and bugging them about this, but I certainly wasn't doing it for months and months. That was not the case.
I think I would be interested in finding out if, yeah, I know for my business, we keep telephone record logs for every call that comes into our office, and I don't know if Whitsett does that as well, but if they could find potentially a log of when the first call and when it was requested. I mean, if it was requested first week of December, there's no reason why it shouldn't have been able to get done. I know when I built my house and requested it, they were there within a week, I think, to do the inspection and give me my certificate of occupancy. So if it was requested in a timely manner and they've got record of that, I would be more apt to consider it.
In my experience, inspectors are crawling up your rear end anyway.
So shall we put this back onto the agenda for next month with all that information that I made available to you? So
I would like to see it so we've got
Okay.
some type of evidence that it was requested. If it was requested within the first week or two of December where it could have been done before the 31st and been done and we wouldn't have had the issue.
Telephone logs, inspection logs?
Well,
because
for
if-
myself, I would just like to see something that if they have some type of proof that he did call in a timely manner to request it.
We need to know what was on that call too. It can be a call as simple as, I'm still doing this.
Correct, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying, is
so
requesting
that
the certificate of
when-
occupancy.
When is the house actually ready to have that final inspection done for the certificate of occupancy? WSN has to do that, and that's what part of the telephone conversations are going to be. Not just the date that there was a telephone call, but what is the content of that call as well?
Correct, yes.
And at that point, I guess what I'd like to say is I'd like to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. You know, we had a deal, and it wasn't honored, and so I'm fine with that. I will withdraw my request.
Well, if you have documentation, I'm sure the EDA would like to see that as well.
Actually, at this point, I'm going to withdraw my request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Truckles.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yep. All right.
Do Robertson,
Oh, right.
okay, Robertson and then Nan.
Okay, we have couple of guests here on the agenda, so we're going to skip down to new business. Item B, Robertson proposal for Cooley View lots. Mr. Robertson is here, so if you want to come on up to the table, Mr. Robertson.
In your packet is a small drawing that shows what Mr. Robertson is proposing. These are the Cooley View lots that are north of 13th. Josh?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
13.
13.
Yep.
I get 13th and 17th backwards all the time.
I'll just turn around.
Okay. But what Mr. Robertson is proposing is to build 7 homes on those lots that are existing. There'll be 2 twin homes and then a 3-unit building. We've talked about it. He's talking about the walkout basements and everything, but this is a way to accommodate some of the things. In order to achieve this, he has to get approval of a revision to the planned unit development that covers the property. The city owns the land. The city has to make the final decision. That means, for example, Dale and Tim will be making the final decision when it goes to the planning commission and goes to the city council for actual action. But the property owner has to give permission. We are the custodian of the properties, the residential lots that are being sold by the city. I talked with Mr. Murphy, the city administrator, and what we thought is that the EDA is the party that can give permission to move forward or not give permission to move forward. And therefore, Mr. Robertson is here and has the proposal to show you, but he's actually requesting permission to move forward and make an application to Nancy and the Planning Commission and the city to have a revision to the PUD.
All right. And your recommendation is that we grant permission to proceed with this application?
Yes, every application deserves a hearing and be able to say yea or nay, but that's a policy decision on the part of the council, so that the council should make the final determination, but Mr. Robertson should have his opportunity to proceed.
Okay.
And if I just may, the PUD allows for what Mr. Robertson is doing. The only thing that he's asking to do at this point is to change the setback requirements that are already in place on this, because this was actually set up, the PUD was actually set up for single-family residential homes and not zero lot line setbacks. So that's realistically is pretty narrow scope.
We do have a lot of room on each side. We're not crowding them in there.
Can I just get a verification, please?
Helms?
I just want to make sure I'm in the right spot here. When you going out towards South Point, you make the left there and you go down the coulee, and then you go up and it's the first left and it's those lots there,
Yes.
correctly? Okay.
Yes, it's near where Mr. Grinde lives.
Okay, so is there any issues with the rest of the homeowners around there as far as?
I'm good. Fill them up, get taxes.
One of the first things.
That's one, but what about the rest?
One of the first things I did when I talked with
Yeah.
Mr. Robertson is ask him to talk to Josh, because Josh is a homeowner and because he would have some handle on the pulse of what his neighbor would be. And I believe I also suggest you talk to the other neighbors out there and see how they were going to respond, so that, because one of the worst things that happens is walk in with a proposal and have a public hearing that has a full house of people who are opposing something, when if you can get information ahead of time, it can let you decide whether to move forward or not. So Mr. Roberts can address whether or not he's talked to other people, but I do know that he's talked to Josh.
And he promised me my taxes would go down 50%.
So, and these are twin homes, you say?
Yes.
Okay, so now,
One's a three
one's
triplex.
gonna
One's at the very end.
okay, one's a 3, okay, on the corner, okay. So
Very similar to the ones that we're building on the other side, Bigland Road.
that's kind of where I was just going to go with this. We're not going to have the same kind of issue with our sewer hookup and stuff there that we had on the other side, are we?
We'll have it on that one. It's deeper, so,
Yeah.
So we're going to be okay on all that, so we're not going to run into a problem there?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, if you'd like to address us, if you've talked to other homeowners or not, I'd.
Ones I've talked to are Joss and Nancy. Yeah.
I just live to the north of
Yeah,
it.
she's just on the other end of the block.
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned, his twin homes will probably have
beautiful.
more property value than a majority, you know, building value than a majority of the homes in the area. I think they'll fit in just fine with the ones to the south, other than a shared wall. But, you know, part of the PUD requirement is they have walkout basements. So now you've already got a twin home / townhome that acts more like a single family home in that sort of a scenario, other than just a 0 lot line. So, but square footage wise, based on what he's got, they'll be bigger than some of the houses in the area too, so.
They're about
So
a little
they'll-
over 3,000.
Yeah, they'll
The ones
look,
across the street aren't like
Yeah.
that at all. From
yeah.
So then we basically what we have to do is just move it on until, and see how far it goes until we do run into opposition somewhere along the line, if there is any. But it sounds like that there shouldn't be, but.
Well, go on, I'm
From a
sorry.
planning commission standpoint, I would prefer that you make a recommendation to the council, because it would be nice to be able to concurrently work through his process, so that we can get this done and moving, if you're okay with it, before the end of the year. Otherwise, I have to hold everything, you know, and not publish anything if you're not gonna make a recommendation at all to the council, because then I have to wait for the council meeting to see, you know, which would be the 1st of October,
I'll make the motion.
so.
A motion by Grinde.
I'll second.
Second by Hecht.
What is the motion, just for clarity?
Let them get rolling.
Here.
Give him permission.
Give permission to proceed
Guess
with the
what?
application.
You
to
like
amend
this
the-
application?
We are contractors and the snowballs are coming.
Yeah, and
Let's
you
go.
like this, you give him permission to proceed, or you give him permission to proceed, and you like this
I
proposal?
would use this language right here, Paul, that you've written.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Any further discussion? I just want to say one thing. I've seen Mr. Robertson's homes, and they stack up next to anybody that's building homes in this community, and they'd be a great addition to that neighborhood.
Thank you. And I appreciate you believing over here to build them.
Absolutely.
Keep trying.
Yes. You got a bunch of lots on the north
We
end.
have to get them out,
That might be next.
water's edge to that large lot.
Pretty soon it's going to be time, so.
There's no, I feel there's no issue with these twin homes as they fit the neighborhood. The other ones that he's built on the other side of Bigland, they fit right into the neighborhood, and
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Dave.
Yep, see you all later.
Now we're
Thanks,
going to
Nance.
Council might be different, though.
We're going to skip to item C under new business. Nan Larson with Franson Bank is here, and I'm going to have Paul take it from here.
I'm going to stumble through this one. Nan contacted the Economic Development Office. She's working with a homeowner who's refinancing a home. Under the terms of the financing, if he goes through, commonly we do these with the satisfaction.
No,
Subordination, I'm sorry, subordination. Thank you. A subordination, if he goes through the subordination process, the secondary lending market is requiring a significant fee, which for this home amounts to over $1,250. There is another way to do this. It was done for many homes after the flood, and that is to do a satisfaction and then file a new lien, and it takes 30 to 45 days before we can file the new lien on it. So what they're proposing is that we do it that way. The costs are significantly less, and they're asking that we go back and for this particular property, that we be able to do that process, which is the process we did before, and she's asking that we assent to that. And if we do that, then we have to file the paperwork for the, she's going to take care of the paperwork for the satisfaction, and she can move forward that way, and then we'll have to file the new lien roughly the 1st of November-ish. Okay?
Okay, any questions?
So they're not moving, they're just refinancing.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
Rate and term.
yep,
The other thing of it is this is a deferred forgivable loan.
Yeah.
So if they live there for 10 years, then the loan goes away.
Right.
Anyways.
right.
So all they're trying to do right now is just to have it satisfied and then re-recorded for the same timeframe.
So take it
That's
off and
left.
put it back on type
Yes.
thing and that's-
We'd be re-recording it for the initial date, right?
Yes, it has the same end date as the previous one, yes.
What does it cost us to redo all of this?
It's going to cost us nothing because Nan's going to take care of the cost.
Well, it's a 46.
$46.
It's $46.
$46.
I just want to make sure.
has already paid that.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure it's
Yep.
not going to.
Make sure everyone out there knows.
You got the idea. So,
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Motion
second.
by Grinde, second by Helms. You got a roll call for this?
There's no money.
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and motion carries. Okay, I gotta figure out.
You guys are a tough board.
Just a rubber, just an old rubber stamp, man.
May I? We don't want something to
Sure.
go first.
Nan, what we're gonna have him do is have the satisfaction sign, we're gonna give it to you, so at the closing, that you can just send it in.
And I have the other satisfaction as well. It has to be attested. So sometime later today, let's say 4 o'clock, Brenda, 4 o'clock-ish, you think?
Sure.
Okay? 4 o'clock-ish, if you could stop by, we can give you both of those to take over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't want to be running people out of your
No, no,
Item number 4C,
thank you.
Director's Report.
I attached the director's report. There are some things that I'm highlighting. The regional market capture study, there are several meetings that are going on. Daniel and I are involved in several of the committees. In particular, the geofencing committee. Diane's on a couple of the committees that talk about events and large attractions. So those are moving along. The next meeting for geofencing is November, isn't it?
it's not till November 12th, I
Yeah, it's
believe.
November.
So by that point in time, we're supposed to be pulling some of the data.
Yeah.
I know from the last meeting, we did have the downtown area mapped, but we were missing a couple of businesses like Up North Pizza.
Which we included. Their
Yep.
the
And
boundaries
then-
being revised.
We also address concerns because we are, basically watching cell phones and where they spend time at. So anybody that is in an apartment would show up in that geofencing. We did address that with basically, if it's somebody who stays in one place for more than 10 hours, we'll be able to exclude them from the data and see that. So we'll know what's actually coming to the businesses. So,
And the other committees include prospects, they include incentives, and things of that nature. There are 5 or 6 different working committees going on right now. So that's going on. We have a meeting on Thursday, changing the subject, we have a meeting on Thursday with the realtors and the mayor and your president here regarding the realtor commissions on city-owned lots.
I just want to comment on that.
Yes.
This has been a long time. We had trouble with our schedules, finding a time when all of us could get together, so that's why we still have this meeting scheduled this Thursday. The last time the mayor and I and Paul met about this, we had kind of a proposal ready to go. There was some concern that it wasn't inclusive enough, that everybody, it wasn't just a hand-picked couple of realtors that were going to be available. So that is going to be addressed at this meeting, and hopefully we can come out of that meeting with a way forward to get the realtors on board and out there selling our properties.
Yet at the same time, we've been working with this pair of realtors for 3 or 4 years now.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's going to be a discussion on that topic in particular.
Yeah,
What is Mr. Gander's stance in all this?
He wants the realtors on board. He really,
Need the realtors
he's
on
kind of
board.
the guy that was pushing for it.
Good,
Yep.
so we can get some.
Yep, we just want to do it right. There's a few years back, there was some dispute about some exclusivity involving a real estate broker, a real estate company, that we don't want to repeat that mistake, and I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but just, it's a competitive world out there.
Sure.
At the same time, loyalty
Because I
is
know
important too.
in previous
Which we all
times,
know.
we've talked
Yeah.
that we might have to raise the price of the lots and stuff like that.
Without the $5,000 program, we now have a margin that we did not have
Okay,
before.
Because
So
that was been the biggest part of that
Yes.
5,000 deal, yes.
Mr. Black, do you have something?
oh, just by looking at it, I was just going to say that, whatever we do decide to do, as long as it's transparent upfront and I'd like to see something in writing on how we're going to do this, just to avoid situations of people coming back to the board from 2012 for promises that are made I'd like to make sure that we're just upfront and transparent with it.
Robertson put a bid on buying them all.
Oh, okay, Josh asked a question. I've talked with Dave about that. He wants to start with 2, but at the same time, it's possible. We talked about doing all the lots all at once, which would put him into the incentive
No,
program.
no, I'm talking citywide.
Well, yeah, he won't go that far yet. We were talking about all the lots on 17th.
Yeah.
We're talking about that, and whether he could get the same kind of incentive that were done for the townhomes at Water's Edge. Okay? So we've talked about that, and he wants to start with the pair, but he thinks he can go forward ultimately with all of them.
Okay. Grow, Minnesota status.
We're still doing the interviews. We have interviews scheduled this week and next week. It's a little bit slower. It's been busy, which is a good thing, but it means that we didn't get it done. We had hoped to give you the report today on the businesses. We're getting information that's very similar to what we've gotten in past years, but we don't want to slight or leave businesses out because it's important to do it. One of our members here has already talked to those of us who've gone out to visit with businesses, and we appreciate the time that he took for us. And with every business with whom we've talked. And Daniel, you would have enjoyed the one that was over at American Crystal, too.
Yeah, I was having another conversation with a couple people on a particle analyzer in Moorhead, so.
Yeah.
Particle analyzer.
Yeah. Trust me, it was a
Sounds
much
thrilling.
more fun
Yeah.
conversation
It's
dealing
like-
with mathematics.
Beam me up, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Social media analytics.
Ms. Blair asked for information on social media analytics, so I obtained that. It shows that there has been growth in the use of our website. We are continuing to work toward that end. There are some additional things that she has in here that we can talk about boosting it and things like that. They're also in the original communications and marketing plan that AE2S put together. I have asked her to give us this information on a quarterly basis, so you get to see on a quarter to quarter, because month to month it's hard to tell a lot of difference, but quarter to quarter would give you information so that you know what's going on. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
It's pretty interesting.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, it
Gordy.
is.
All right. 5, back to unfinished business. A, Mayo update, the deed agreement.
Deed has approved the agreement. We're in the process of getting signatures so that Delisle Properties, Mayo Manufacturing, will get some money from the deed MIF program to expand their building. One of the consequences of this is when the loan is paid back from deed, a couple things. One, it's a reimbursement. He's got to incur the bills, and we get to submit up to 3 times the bills that he's given us to deed for prepayment. As he pays the loan, the city gets to keep a portion of that loan because MIF funds normally are used only for industrial loans, certain categories of industrial loans, as opposed to the MIF funds that we've been using up to now, which are disaster-based and don't have the same strict limitations. We have to set up a new fund for these loans, and as we get more, that fund will grow. At the conclusion of this, we should have something like $40,000 in that new fund for businesses. It's not much, but it's a start.
Okay.
Okay.
Give them a kick in the teeth.
Well, it can supplement other things that we do, because we can pull from there, and we can pull from multiple accounts if we need to. Creates a bookkeeping nightmare, but that's what it is. But that's the consequences of that. So we're moving forward and getting the signatures so that we can do it. We actually have a closing on the city loan with Mr. Delisle tomorrow.
Good to see that they're going out there.
Yeah.
Got stuff moving.
I mean,
Nice.
there was one small issue, and I had the opportunity last week at the Highway 2 West Manufacturers Association meeting to put Mr. Delisle, who's on the H2W, the Highway 2 West Board, together with Bob Isaacson, who's the head of the program at Deed. We worked out the last question that we had so that it's now moving forward. And everybody's happy. That's a good thing. I like that part of it.
Write it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, good work, Paul. It was always nice to get a letter from this, from like this for
Yeah.
job well done.
It's the first one. It is the first one for the city.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. We've done Torkelson.
Up to 6A.
6A, Northern Valley Machine, Border Cities tax credits.
For those of you who were on the board last year, remember when we had to deal with the tax credits for Pro, and we had to make an adjustment because the program does not work as we had thought it would work? You either get the disparity tax credits or the tax credits for the border cities, so that they're mutually exclusive programs, and that required us to do an adjustment for Pro last year. We had to make a similar adjustment for Northern Valley Machine. When we talked with them, we had promised them 5 years. In order to fulfill that 5-year promise, we need to add about $45,000 to increase the total amount of tax credits available for Northern Valley Machine to $145,000, so we can keep our promise, keep our word. So I ask that you assent to that.
Got a vote on this?
I'll make the motion to
I would
recommend to the city council to approve.
I'll second.
Moved by Hecht, second by Johnson. Roll call?
You can do it, I don't care.
Yeah, let's have a roll call vote. We got to have one.
You've had one already.
Oh, well, sorry.
I'm just-
So you've had one, do you want to just?
No, we're going to do roll call.
Okay,
This is money.
yes, this is money. Johnson.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Pokrzywinski.
Yes.
Grinde.
Yes.
Heck.
Yes.
Helms.
Yes.
All right, and
If I may,
motion is approved.
the public hearing on this will be on October 1st at the city council meeting, and thank you.
The rest of the agenda items we've already taken care of, so if there's no further discussion, motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Moved by Black,
Second.
second by Helms. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're adjourned.